I'm showing you a wallet that I made in the past, in the last 10 years. This is an easy wallet to make. It's just one piece of leather folded. Recently, a friend of mine challenged me to make a more complicated wallet. And I'm laying out the parts that I need to cut just so I can keep track in my mind. That's 6 different pieces of leather that all have to be sewn together. I'm not sure I could do it at this point. I start cutting up the leather. This is about 5 ounce, maybe 4 ounce leather. That's a hotel room key that I have just as the same size as a wallet, credit card, or a driver's license. So I'm using that as reference for the size of the wallet. Now he showed me a picture in a catalog of something he wanted. And I told him I don't think I could do it. And he just flat out said, yes, you can. And I honestly was scared to do it. I'm, at this point in the video, still scared that I won't be able to get it done. So I start cutting leather, and you'll notice I'm cutting on a cutting mat. And one of the most important things on a cutting mat is the lines. And you'll see I'm able to use a straight edge and razor blade and cut repeat sizes using the cutting mat. And as long as you use that ruler, you lay your material on the cutting mat in the grid. And those are 1/2 inch squares. And then if you notice in that quadrant that I'm in, there's fractions of those 1/2 inch squares. And you could lay that line, that ruler, on any of those fractions or any of those dominant lines, and you could make repeating cuts. So there I have 6 pieces of leather, which if I was going to sew together would be a 1/2 inch thick, be altogether a little bit too thick. So this is one of Taylor's machines, and what you're watching there is me for the very, very ever first time using the skiver. Those few pieces you just watched in that last take were the first pieces I ever passed through the skiver. And the skiver cuts the end skinny. Now I didn't want to start messing with the settings because Taylor has it set for her work, so I wasn't going to go in there and start playing around with it because this is her machine and I want to respect her settings. So I just did the settings that were there. And you'll see what the skiver does is it splits the end. There is a bell-shaped razor blade, and it gets pulled through that bell-shaped razor blade and slices the edge thinner. And obviously you could see those pieces there where the white is showing. There it is. That's the thin edge. Now, and you'll notice I just punched a hole and sliced it out. That's the hole to push out a credit card. And this is going to be the window for a driver's license. And I could have just as easily went on the laser cutter, but I wanted to just kind of stay close to home here and just use simple tools. Now, I'm trying to make something finished as a gift for my friend because he asked for it. But at the same time, I know I'm going to school. In fact, I cut this piece you're watching me work on there. I cut that twice because this window didn't come out quite perfect. And neither did the second one, but it's better than that one. And now I'm kind of still intimidated. I'm looking at this 6-piece pile of leather and wondering how the hell am I going to sew this together in a decent manner. So as a stall tactic, I decided to paint the inside with this edge coating, this dark brown edge coating, because I wanted to stiffen the leather up. Now this is a Weaver sponsored video, so everything you see here is available at Weaver's website, which will be linked. And I am doing, like what I say, stall tactics. This is me avoiding getting to the part where I have to do the dangerous stuff, which is start sewing things together. Now, it's not a big deal because I could just go back and cut more leather if I screwed it up. And now here we are at the Weaver 303 walking foot. And from the picture my buddy sent me from the catalog, I'm basically copying the wallet that I saw in the catalog. I didn't have it in hand, so I don't know exactly how it was constructed. I'm going on pictures. And every open edge piece of leather had a stitch line on it. So that seems to be more of a style than an actual functioning aspect of the construction. So I'm just throwing a stitch line. Getting used to the machine, getting used to this top and bottom thin thread. I probably could have put a thinner needle on this machine. Probably should have. Now I'm just thinking of the logistics of these different parts. And these two parts are sewn together. I got to also be careful where I want to glue later, so I got to remember what I'm going to do. These three parts are sewn together. Oh, but first I got to put that stitch line around the push out hole for that one pocket that will carry a most often used credit card. Again, the stitch line is just for vanity. And now I have to throw a stitch line on that. The whole time the walking foot is broken up into three little sections, which maybe we could see a little bit closer when I zoom in. I'm using the one side or the other side of the middle foot as my guide from the edge. I'm doing my best to make sure that everything stays parallel. Now this is the window pocket on the one extreme outside. And I have to, again, because that's how it was in the picture he sent me, I'm putting a stitch line around that. Again, the width of that center foot, the hole to the edge. And when I'm making these turn corners, I'm slowly going. The good thing about the 303, it has an adjustable stepper motor in it. So most sewing machines are super scary because industrial sewing machines from the old days are a clutch motor where you just hit the thing and you're engaging the clutch and it throws the machine into like hyper speed. And it's scary. You're afraid you're going to stick your fingers under the needle. You don't really know how to use it unless you've spent some time with it. This has a variable speed stepper motor, which makes life a lot easier. And I'm flattening out the stitches there with Zach's hammer because it's highly polished. You want to bang down the leather tends to pucker when the needle goes through it, and you bang the stitches in place. And that's why I'm using Zach's hammer, because it's highly polished, so it's going to give me a nice finish. It's not going to make a mark. I did notice at this point that the walking foot is leaving some marks on there. There is probably a polished walking foot, which I don't have, so it wouldn't leave those marks. It's also kind of breaking the skin on the leather a little bit in some spots, because multiple layers is getting thicker and thicker towards the edge, even though it's all skived, and now it's getting thin towards the edge, but thick right up past the skive. So the walking foot has to contend with, the big stack of 6 layers of leather, even though it's just outside the skiving area, if that makes sense. I used the edge coat on the threads from the inside. So every little stylistic stitched edge, I edge coated the inside to hold the threads in place. And now I'm just using some PVA glue to glue the packets together. And this is the window that carries the driver's license. And I try to put edge coat as cleanly as possible. In some cases it rolled over, and I try to roll it over consistently. And now again, because of the kind of the wedge edge of everything, I'm using my razor blades beveled edge to kind of center the skived meeting point, if that makes sense. So I'm using that beveled edge so the skived edge kind of meets in space. I think that makes sense. And now the original picture that Chris sent me had this little wallet loop. And so I'm gluing that in there. And it takes some time for the PVA glue to take hold, so I'm just pushing it the whole time with my fingers. I hold it literally for probably 15 minutes while I'm just dilly-dallying around. And now I'm at the sewing machine, and I'm extremely nervous because this is where I'm going to screw everything up. And that's a shot from the new DJI camera, DJI Action 2. And it worked pretty good. Pretty good. I did a little back stitch there. Again, just banging those seams so that they look as good as they can. I broke the skin a little bit. You could see here, like right there by my thumb. And you could see how it looks like it already has cards in it because of that skived edge now is kind of meeting in the middle of space, kind of like a football edge. And so now I'm just sanding, now that all the parts are met together. I'm using the torch to burn all the little hairs and all the little stuff off. And now I'm going back to the edge coat, putting as much edge coat on it, trying to hide some mistakes, to be perfectly honest. And now I'm using the Tough Coat Clear, trying to fill in some of the scratches that occurred. And again, you'll see some like little track marks from the walking foot on there. I think they'll come out in time. But I certainly went to school on this one, and I say that all the time. In this one, I really, really went to school. I was very intimidated to make this simple little wallet. I was honestly very scared when Chris said, you could make this. I said, no, I can't. He goes, yes, you can. And so now I'm that much smarter. I'm not an expert by any means at making this type of wallet, but the next one I make will be better than this one, and this one didn't come out too bad. Except for a few little technical glitches here and there. I'm in the ballpark. There's a piece of steel in there as I put in the... Could you tell I faked it? Because the first one I did, I wasn't filming. So I had to fake it. But there, I put a piece of steel in there. And you could see some of the tracks from the walking foot. But like I said, this is... this, for me, was about 80% of a success. The fit and the finish is really what bothers me the most. That this isn't nearly as perfect as like a Hermes or something you might find at a high-end store. But now I understand it better. Probably need a thinner needle, probably need thinner thread. But most importantly, I got past my fear and I made my first attempt. And as I always say, you go to school on the first one. And I certainly went to school on this one. And you can see how far I've come from a simple trifold wallet in the background to this more complicated 6-piece fancy pants wallet. So thank you, Weaver, and thank you, Chris.